I just talked to Jimmy Hart yesterday, and he was fine. To have this happen is just horrible. The match with Shaquille O'Neal as special referee, and then Halloween Havoc were Tommy Hearns, Muhammad Ali, Sherry Martel. I mean, they're never going to be called classics, but they drew money, and we drew money. The one thing that I said it publicly at the Garden one night, my son went to 6 rehabs, and he never, my insurance didn't cover rehab, so Hulk lent me money one time to keep him in rehab and keep him off life support. So I've never forgotten that. And I went to pay him back, and he said, "You never have to pay me back. I'm here for you."
The wrestling world was shaken to its core when news broke that Hulk Hogan, one of the most recognizable and influential figures in professional wrestling history, had passed away. Fans around the globe mourned, but many were left wondering about his final moments, what really happened on that last day. Until recently, much of the story stayed private. Now, thanks to accounts from medical staff and those close to Hogan, the full picture is coming into focus, and it's more heartbreaking than anyone expected. This is the complete story of Hulk Hogan's final hours, the weeks leading up to his death, and the legacy of a man who changed the face of wrestling forever. July 24, 2025 started like any other summer morning in Clearwater, Florida. The sun was already bright, the heat rising, and the waves of the Gulf of Mexico shimmering nearby. In a beautiful home along the waterfront, where many celebrations and family gatherings had taken place, something unexpected was unfolding. At 9:51 a.m., a 911 call went out. The voice on the line, whose identity has not been made public, sounded urgent and alarmed. The emergency: cardiac arrest.
How much pain are you in right now?
That's kind of funny because I had a physical therapist ask me yesterday, if you could be out of pain or you could have a perfect championship walk, what would you rather have? And I said, I'd rather have the walk. She goes, "You're out of your mind." I said, "Yes, I am." She goes, "Well, how much pain are you in?" I said, "Well, I'm in pain all the time, but I'm used to it." And my go-to in the morning, just to get me rolling, is 2 cups of coffee and 2 Tylenols, and then that's it.
The patient, Terry Jean Ballia, known worldwide as Hulk Hogan, the man who body slammed giants, headlined sold-out arenas, and defined an era of wrestling entertainment, was now fighting for his life against an opponent no one can outmuscle: a failing heart. Within 5 minutes, first responders from Clearwater Fire and Rescue arrived. They rushed into Hogan's home at 9:56 a.m., fully equipped and ready. What they found was a scene of controlled chaos. Hogan, 71 years old, lay unresponsive. Paramedics immediately began CPR, their hands pressing rhythmically against the chest of the man whose strength once seemed unmatched.
From the back being fused?
Yeah, the back and
How many discs are fused?
everything's fused.
The whole back.
I've had 10 back surgeries, but
The contrast was striking. This was the same body that had lifted Andre the Giant, weighing over 500 pounds, in front of tens of thousands of fans. Now, it was still and vulnerable. The medical team worked without pause. For more than 30 minutes, they fought to bring him back. Dispatch audio later obtained by media outlets revealed the urgency in their voices. They were determined to give Hogan every possible chance. At 10:28 a.m., over half an hour later, they were still performing CPR as they prepared to transport him to the hospital. Video footage from that morning showed paramedics wheeling Hogan toward the ambulance, continuing compressions as the world outside carried on, unaware of the battle being fought inside. The ambulance raced to Morton Plan Hospital, its sirens cutting through the morning traffic. Paramedics didn't stop their efforts during the ride.
Bundy, you ain't Kamala. Remember Kamala? Rubbing his back.
At 10:32 a.m., Hogan was rushed into the emergency department, where a full medical team was waiting. Hospitals are places where life and death decisions are made daily, but this was not just any patient. Behind closed doors, doctors and nurses worked tirelessly. HIPAA laws keep many details private, but what's known is that they continued resuscitation for nearly an hour. Despite every effort, at 11:17 a.m., Hulk Hogan was pronounced dead. The official cause, cardiac arrest. Police later confirmed there was nothing suspicious, no foul play, no external cause. It was simply the end of a long battle between an aging body and years of physical wear and tear. The news spread quickly across social media and news outlets, but inside the hospital, there was only quiet respect for a man whose larger-than-life persona could not overcome the realities of the human heart. To understand how this happened, it's important to look back at the weeks and months before July 24th. Hogan was always known for projecting strength and toughness, but behind the scenes, his health had been declining. In interviews, he admitted to living with constant pain. Speaking to Chris Van Vliet earlier in the year, Hogan openly said, "I'm in pain all the time, but I'm used to it. My morning routine is coffee and Tylenol, then I get moving." This was a man who had learned to live with discomfort, prioritizing his public image and passion for wrestling over his own well-being. May 2025 brought a major health challenge: complex spinal fusion surgery. This was not a minor procedure. It involved multiple levels of his cervical spine and was one of many surgeries Hogan had undergone. In the past decade alone, he'd endured more than 25 operations, including 10 back surgeries and multiple joint replacements. Each one took a toll. Despite the seriousness, public updates were optimistic. On June 18th, his representative assured fans there was nothing to worry about, praising the success of the neck surgery. But not everyone agreed. Bubba the Love Sponge, a longtime friend turned radio personality, painted a far darker picture. He claimed Hogan was in the ICU for weeks and on his deathbed. 3 days before Hogan's death, Bubba's co-host went further, saying Hogan couldn't speak and was bedridden at home. Hogan's family denied these claims. His wife, Sky Daly, posted on Instagram, insisting his heart was strong and there was no brain damage or coma. Even close friends like Jimmy Hart reassured fans that Hogan was doing phenomenal. 2 days before his death, Hart tweeted that Hogan had enjoyed time with his son Nick. That tweet was later deleted, but it reflected the mixed messages coming from Hogan's inner circle. Why the conflicting stories? Some suggest Hogan and his family wanted to protect his privacy. Others believe it was denial or refusal to admit that the indestructible Hulk Hogan could be fragile. The truth, according to sources close to the family, was somewhere in the middle. Hogan was recovering from surgery, but struggling with serious heart issues. He experienced shortness of breath, fatigue, and weight loss. His heart, weakened by age, years of strain, and possibly past steroid use, was not as strong as fans believed. Bubba's frustration boiled over after Hogan's death. On air, he said, "I wish I wasn't right, because being right means Hulk Hogan is gone." He accused others of hiding the truth. Whether or not Bubba's warnings were entirely accurate, the signs of decline were there if painful to acknowledge. Hogan's health challenges were not sudden. They were the result of a lifetime of punishing his body. During the 1980s and 90s, wrestling schedules were brutal: constant travel, nightly matches, and high-impact moves. Hogan also admitted in the 1990s to using steroids, common at the time, which carry long-term health risks including heart problems. Every surgery, every injury added up. By 2025, Hogan's body had been through decades of physical abuse. That final spinal surgery may have put extra strain on an already weakened system. Even so, Hogan stayed silent publicly. Perhaps it was pride. Perhaps he wanted fans to remember him strong. Friends said he put on a brave face, attending events despite obvious discomfort. The last conversation Jimmy Hart had with Hogan was through an assistant the night before he died. Hart said, "Tell him I love him." Those words would be the last from one friend to another. While the details of his passing are emotional, Hogan's story can't be told without looking at what he accomplished. Few athletes have ever had the cultural impact Hogan did. On January 23, 1984, when he defeated the Iron Sheik to win the WWF Championship, the wrestling world changed forever. That night, Hulkamania was born. Throughout the 1980s, Hogan became more than a wrestler. He was a household name, appearing on magazine covers, in cartoons, and even in movies. WrestleMania 3, where he body-slammed Andre the Giant, drew more than 93,000 fans, a record at the time. He made wrestling mainstream, connecting with children and adults alike. His image of training, prayers, and vitamins inspired a generation. Even when his hero image faded, Hogan reinvented himself. In 1996, he shocked fans by turning villain, joining the New World Order in WCW. It worked. Ratings soared, and Hogan proved he could adapt and remain a top star well into his 40s. His influence paved the way for stars like The Rock, John Cena, and countless others who followed the path from wrestling to broader entertainment careers. Hogan's story was not without controversy. Later in life, he faced public backlash over leaked private comments and political views. Family relationships were sometimes strained. At the time of his death, his daughter Brooke remained distant, though she had expressed love and concern for his health. But despite flaws and missteps, Hogan's contributions to wrestling are undeniable. He helped turn a niche sport into a global spectacle. Every t-shirt sold, every action figure, every major wrestling event owes something to the blueprint he created. Even Make-A-Wish Foundation records show Hogan was among the most requested celebrities during his peak, giving joy to children facing serious illnesses. When the end came, it was sudden, but not entirely surprising. The years had caught up with him, and the body that once seemed unstoppable finally gave way. In a way, the quiet at Morton Plant Hospital was fitting. After a life lived so publicly, perhaps Hogan deserved privacy in his final moments. Hulk Hogan was larger-than-life, flawed, celebrated, criticized, but always unforgettable. He was a hero to many, a controversial figure to some, and an undeniable pioneer in his industry. The wrestling world will continue to evolve, but his influence is everywhere, in the lights, the spectacle, the characters, and the dreams of those who stepped into the ring. And maybe that's the best way to remember him. Not just as a man who died on a summer morning in Florida, but as the person who made millions believe in something bigger than themselves.